So this one's a bit controversial. Hi, this is Cat Talks, and today we're talking about how fanfiction can make you a better writer. Hold on to your hats, folks! So, buckle your seatbelts, hold your thoughts to the end, and then tell me all about them in the comments, and let's see what we can do. So the first reason that I think that fanfiction has actually improved my writing is that I get immediate feedback. So you do have to be wary in fanfiction communities, and especially, it's been a long day. In fanfic communities, and especially when you're dealing with like a niche pairing or ship, that maybe shouldn't or isn't really canon, you have to be a bit wary of the feedback. Wary? Oh good lord, I can't speak today. You have to be a bit wary of the feedback because obviously people are so desperate for fiction in that genre, especially if it's not a like well-published or well-known pairing, that they will love anything you write, even if it's like riddled with errors. I've seen some fictions that I'm not sure, the story was really good but the writing was not. You get like, I love this fic, it's the best fic ever written. So definitely be wary of immediate feedback in fanfiction. But also, it is so good. They can point out inconsistencies in your story like you would not believe. I had a Kindle that was invented in 1995. Ixnay on that one. I had, apparently I'm really bad at timelines, so I also had digital photography that was again like maybe 2000s, early 2000s, which was rare, I was told in the comments. Yeah, I really need to do more research when I write fanfiction, specifically because the timeline is so set, which is another reason I don't like contemporary. But the immediate feedback can be so good for like keeping going writing and getting you into the rhythm of writing every day so that you can publish every week. I would advise setting yourself a set publish date and then trying to get ahead of it. So I publish my stories once a week, and I always try and make sure I have at least 2 finished and edited story chapters ready to go before we get to that week so that I don't have to stress. It's tailed off a bit now that the first complete draft is finished because my beta has been on holiday. But I'm so happy I did this early on, and it's really taught me about consistency, like I said, and about making sure if you set yourself a deadline, you actually hit the deadline, because your fans will be disappointed. The second way that it's really helped me is working with betas. So as a writer, you are going to work with editors if you want to be successful. I've read unedited books, and I'm sure the author thought they were the shit. They weren't. Spelling mistakes happen, and everyone will have at least one in their published novel, I have absolutely no doubt, whether it's self-published or whether it's traditionally published. But you will probably, in fact almost definitely, work with an editor or a beta reader, and they'll be able to point out flaws in your logic, missing sentences, bits where you've used the wrong word, bits where you've missed a word completely and your sentence now has the opposite meaning. My betas pointed out when I've done things like teleport people from England to Stockholm for no reason, like, you know, it's just logical consistency and things like that. So betas are so useful, and I will praise mine to the stars and beyond, and she knows it. But you do have to work with them, and you have to work with editors, and having a friendly relationship with someone, especially someone who isn't being paid and you're not paying, you have to be on your best behaviour. You have to take their advice or not, but do it in a constructive way. And I think working with a beta in this way is so important as a skill for writers to learn. Okay, the third way that fanfiction has really like revolutionised my writing is research. I have had to research a lot of things, so I didn't actually finish the book that I write fanfiction for. I know, shocker, but I've been interested in this pairing for 15 years now, I think. And so there are a lot of things that I need to look up to make sure that they are consistent with the way that the author wrote them. I know I'm a bad person, okay? But research as a skill, as clearly defined by my story and example in 1, means that you won't make stupid mistakes like having the Kindle invented about 10 years before it came out. And honestly, having the consistency is really good for you, especially in fandoms where people are so passionate about the facts. I'm probably in one of the most ardent of areas where they care about facts like that, and my story was kind of integral to it. But I really enjoy now the process of checking the wiki. So I guess that's a tip. If you haven't written fanfiction before, check the wiki. Another great skill that you have to kind of like train when you're writing fanfiction in particular is empathy. So you need to be able to see how your chosen characters would react even though you didn't write them. I mean, Brandon Sanderson literally wrote a book for a guy, The Wheel of Time, end of the series, and he had to do the exact same thing that many fanfiction authors have had to do, which is put themselves in the author's shoes and make choices for those characters that are logically consistent with the story that's been told so far. I think that's like something that you need to learn as an author, and I think it's a really good exercise in terms of character motivation, character goals. Yeah, so that one for me is one of the main reasons I really enjoy writing and reading fanfiction in my chosen pairing, because the author's left a lot to a lot to the reader imagination, but there are some things that you just can't get away from, right? Like if you write I don't know, if you wrote a Jane the Virgin fanfiction, then you would need to know that Jane is kind of self-righteous. Sorry, not sorry. And that, you know, Raph used to be rich and doesn't know his parents. You know, that kind of thing is... You can't get away from that. You can't suddenly have, you know, those characters change their internal dynamics without at least a very good reason for doing so. Another big advantage of writing fanfiction, another big learning, I guess, from writing fanfiction is that you have to follow through. If you write the beginning of a fanfiction and then don't finish it, there are going to be some really disappointed people. And honestly, I think that really kind of affects the community's perception of you as an author. I was galvanized by the immediate feedback, like I said, especially the positive feedback, not so much the negative, to continue writing. And that is also another good skill, continuing to push back despite negative feedback. So as writers, as authors, not everyone is going to love your novel, especially if it gets to be well known. And I think it's really good to learn to kind of like live with the 1-star reviews, or live with the negative feedback, or live with the I hate the way you've done this character. I would not have written it this way. The final thing that I've identified from writing fanfiction, I'm going to swap arms now because this arm is really tired. The last thing that I want to point out that will improve you as a writer or an author when writing fanfiction is mainly geared at those of you who want to write series, so want to write multiple books, one after the other, in the same universe. And that's that once you've published it, you can't change it. And there are some things that when you've written them into a book, you have to like maintain or know. Yeah, so if you publish it and it's out in the world, you need to remember that you've written it and you need to tie it into your story, and at least most of the stuff you write. You certainly can't defy logic without a good explanation, given the constraints of the world you've made. So if you wrote let's go back to Jane the Virgin. If you wrote a Jane the Virgin fanfiction that had magic, you would need to explain that magic, you would need to have a way it worked, and then you would need to make it internally consistent with the things that you'd published and written earlier. And most fanfiction authors write on a chapter by chapter basis. So I think, especially if you write that way, in a discovery way, you don't know what's coming. So you need to make sure that what is coming is consistent with what came before. People will notice that. So I do want to touch on the downsides of fanfiction really quickly, mainly because my camera is going to stop recording any second. One of them, as I said before, is that your reviews will be rose-tinted glasses. All the time, all the time, all the time. The second one is that it has a really bad reputation. Now, I've been lucky in my pairing that people I know in real life who love my writing anyway also really like this one pairing that I also like, and my friend has been instrumental in like keeping me motivated and happy to talk about my writing and fanfiction here and with other people in my life. But in the general, it has a really bad rep, and you can't tell anyone that you've written it. So, I don't know, you lack kind of like that feedback that you get if you write a novel and send it to people. And the other thing is that you can't monetize fanfiction. So you can't link your fanfiction author name to your real name for your real books in any way, or the lawyers will come and eat all of your money, much like sharks in the water. So yeah, don't do that. I guess the final point to end on is more of like a reading fanfiction point, but you will become addicted to your pairing and you will find it really difficult to stop reading when you get to work. Some people, at least me, I don't have that problem. I really hope my face is in the frame. So this has been how fanfiction can improve your writing. I hope you enjoyed the content, and please leave comments down below, especially if you disagree, because I love to have a chat. And if you agree, I love your adoration. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. The YouTube algorithm loves that shit. Ta-ra!